So I do another sort of small dry fly, similar. It's an Adams pattern. It's called a Bastard Adams. It's a Welsh pattern. So we're going to do the same sort of hackling thing, but we're just going to do it the other way around. We do it sort of a more traditional direction this time. But it's cool because this has got it's got a nice wing material, nice easy wing material. It's got some partridge as a wing. So this is a really good pattern for like the iron blues and that. So again, we've got 14 dry fly hook in there. So I will get some sort of dun coloured thread and get some of them on there. Same drill as before, down to the bend. I love strip quills. Just look so the segmentation is so look really cool. That's why I think it's worth. I recently bought some strip quills because I was in a rush, and I got some filling mill ones, and they're horrible. The Polish quill ones are really good, but I just think it's much better off just stripping your own. Get a really good peacock eye and strip your own. I know it's a bit of a faff, but it's the same as before. I'm going to judge the tips haven't lined up great on that, but gauge it for length. Tie it in, just do a few turns, check you're happy with the tail before you continue. Every fly is like a chain of processes, so just check you're happy with the last process before you continue. Otherwise it'll be a fly that you're just thinking, if you're not happy with it, you're not going to. So again, flat cut. So there's our tailing. You're going to do the wing. So you want the brown feathers. So this is an English partridge. This is a female. We've got the much browner, darker brown feathers, and these are great. They're really buggy. So I'm going to pull 2 of those out. It's not very good. I love these. I just bought another really nice English partridge from Steve Cooper. I think they're not that easy to get hold of at the moment. So I'm just going to get rid of a load of the fluff on the bottom. I'm sure there's lots of shoots with English partridge. It's just if you can.
It's not so many.
No, but
nowadays,
it's a lot of.
The French partridge is much easier to breed.
Yeah. And it's not having the skill of like skinning it nicely and So there's the 2 partridge feathers. I'm going to line up the tips. They're going to be sat on top of each other, like concave to concave. So they're not. I just want them as like one wing. So make sure I line up the tips. And then you can moisten it a little bit.
What's the reason that you've got 2? Is it to get the
density? Well, one feather is just a little bit, just not quite enough.
Yeah.
So we'll just moisten it a little bit just to make it a little bit more easy to control. Same as what you do with the tail, offer it up for length, because as a rule, using my scissors like I always do, as like a pair of compasses, if you want the wing on an insect, on an upwinged insect, is normally the same length as the body of the fly, so that's the shank. So you can offer your wing up for length, gauge it for length, put it in position, and then you can pinch and loop, get it on top of the hook shank, just a couple of turns, check you're happy with the positioning, which is a bit not quite right. So if I leave my thread in the middle of where the thorax is, gauge the length, pinch and loop it on there, that should be somewhere handy. So it's not going very well. So a little bit too, so I'm going to use thumbnail just to shunt it back a little bit. There we go. I think some of these fibres aren't great. I've got lots of little fibres sticking out, so I think they're broken fibres. but we'll just continue. So instead, as I said before, instead of doing the vertical cut, we'll do a nice flat cut of the waist, just so we don't have any nasty lumps and bumps in the fly. I'm going to run the thread back. And then the dubbing on this is basically an Adams, so it should be like a muskrat. This is something that like Davy McPhail uses a lot. It's mole, but to make it a lot more user friendly, there's a load of blue rabbit in it as well. It's a really nice dubbing and it's easy to use. So I've just taken out a whopping great big clump. But what I want to do is just tease out some nice light wispy. If you've got a lump like that, you can't dub that. You've got to tease out some nice soft fibres. So you've got a nice little fluffy wisp. And then add that to the thread. Thread wrap, finger and thumb, one direction. So offer that up.
Would you use superfine dubbing?
Yeah, I prefer to use more natural. Yeah,
as a substitute.
yeah, superfine would be fine. Yeah. Not quite enough, so a little tiny bit more. So now this is another sort of thorax done hackle. So the hackle is going to be tied sort of throughout the thorax. So this time, if I've got a hackle anyway, I'll use that one. So this time we're going to tie it in at the back, the more conventional method. So it's the same drill as before. We'll just pull some fibres off the stem to expose the stem. And again, the tying in point is going to be about 1 millimetre in front of where the fibres are starting. So we've got like that quarter of a turn without any fibres getting involved. And that quarter of or half a turn gives it just enough room to everything to get aligned, and and that stops you having stray fibres poking out everywhere. He says, with partridge fibres poking out everywhere. Yeah. So that's the stem. So again, with this, just going to dub the thorax. So you make the thorax the fattest part of the fly. A few turns of dubbing. A little bit more dubbing. I also do a parachute one of this as well, exactly the same, but use the partridge feather as the parachute post. I'm going to do a clink hammery type thing as well this evening, a slightly different technique. So there we go. So now there's a more traditional hackle wind. We're starting at the back. We're going to crease the stem. One thing Charles Jardine said about winding hackles, before you start winding a hackle, it's like an origami. When you crease the paper, fold the hackle forwards. Before you start winding, you put a crease in the stem then. So we're going to wind up. Get sort of 2 or 3 turns behind the wing. And then a couple of turns in front of the wing. This wing is a little bit too forward on this, but so now I'm going to hold the hackle up. Where the hackle is sort of tight against the hook, it will create like a gap in the, so I can push there, and my thread will be going against bare stem basically. So I've got 2 turns on the material, put everything back out of the way, a couple of turns in front, and there we go. So I like using that. I like the use of the partridge feather for a wing. It's a nice easy wing material. Looks really nice. You could use a like a male partridge feather if you wanted a paler wing. So whip finish. And with these lighter hooks, there's no point in having a whip finish if it's loose, so you really want to pull it tight. But always put your finger on the hook eye to support the hook first. Then you can really pull your whip finish nice and tight without, straining on a light wire hook. Trim that off. Trim that off nice and tight. And there's the second one. So that's a more traditional sort of hackling technique, but just with a cool wing.
You put any cement on it?
No, I normally do. I normally put a little bit on.
Yeah.
I'm a bit disappointed at the moment. I always loved that Benici head cement, the really fine stuff, but it's got really difficult to get now. So I've got just some ordinary Veniard Solaya varnish, but that Benici is seems to be really hard to get. So that the wing is. I'm tempted to get one out of my pot, but because the wing is a bit too close to the eye on that, but all I can do is apologise.
Well, that's a good thing, really.